Hey everyone, and welcome back to another video. In the last one, we created some dynamic crosshairs, and in this one, we're going to continue on by making our main HUD and making our weapon information and certain stuff like that. So just like in the last video, we're going to start out by making a couple of variables. These ones are going to exist within our weapon base. Let's go ahead and make 3 of them. So the first 2 are going to be integers. One of them we want to make is current ammo and of type integer. We're going to make another one called current total ammo, and then another one that is called what do we want to call it? Let's call it ammo type, and we'll make this of type text. Let's compile so we can edit these. So for current ammo, that's going to be the current amount of ammo that we have in our magazine at any given time. So for default value, let's make that something like maybe like 30. Then for our current total ammo, let's give us a lot of ammo and say like 244 or something. And for the ammo type, we're going to make something like bracket space auto space bracket. Something along the lines of that. All right, and so just like before, if we open up our auto rifle, for example, we now have those variables, and we can change these independently. Grenade launcher, you can change them and all of that, however you would like. Alrighty, so now let's go back to our UI folder, and let's create a new widget, and let's call this weapon info, and let's open that up. For this one, what are we going to start out with? Let's go ahead, because this is kind of a big hierarchy, this thing. So let's go to fill screen and let's go to desired. Alrighty. The first thing that we want to grab is a vertical box. Let's drag that on top of our canvas panel, and we can we replace the canvas panel? Oh, it's not what we wanted to do. Okay. Maybe, I'm kind of like trying to get rid of the canvas panel. Maybe we can't. Wait a second. Can I just delete? I can just delete the canvas panel. There we go. Okay, let's rename this main box. We want everything to be centered around this box, not a random canvas panel. The reason is that if we have the size box, it has different parameters here, where we just want everything to be created on this box. The first thing that we want to do is create not a stamina bar, what's it called? Progress bar. It's going to be called stamina bar by us. Okay, on the stamina bar, we're not actually going to do anything with it yet, but we're going to keep these how they are. Left to right is fine. We can change some of the fill color and opacity. You know what? That looks fine for now. Let's just keep that for now. Next, we want to do an overlay, and we're going to put the overlay on the main box, and we'll keep that as an overlay. And see how it's underneath it like that. So we have this vertical box, the main box, the stamina bar is on top, and then the overlay is beneath, and we can like move them like that, and they move in the hierarchy. But we want the overlay beneath. Let's go ahead and do a background blur. I'm going to put that on top of the overlay, so that lives within said overlay. And then for our background blur, let's go ahead and make it a fill like that. So it's filling up the entire thing. The blur strength, let's set that to be something like 1, so you can see that in there. It's kind of hard to see right now because everything's so small. But, I mean, that is a thing. Next, we want an image. And the image is going to live on the overlay like that. And let's just call this background. This is going to fill up everything as well. For color and opacity, let's make it black. And then for our A value, let's make this 0.35, something like that. So it's creating this blurry kind of black image right here. Moving along in our image size, if you don't see this under appearance, just open up brush. We're gonna set this to be 250 by 150. And then since this stamina bar is so close, let's select on the stamina bar, and then on the bottom padding, let's do something like 10 maybe, so they're just a little bit separated. And we can actually see, like, we'll just make that like sure 0.75 or something like that, just so we can see that, and we can mess with the colors and different stuff like that later. Moving along, let's do a horizontal box, put that on our overlay, and we'll name this ammo count box or something like that. Let's do padding to the left of -6. Wait, no, to the top -6. And then I want to make this kind of centered in here like that. If I made that 0, you know what? No, make it -6, because there were some weird things with the text that made it look better in that way. The next thing that we want to do though is we want to make a text and put that inside of our box. And then for our text, what we want to do is, oh, I see. Let's make the text have -6, and then the ammo count, that's the one that had -6. That's why it was the text that looks a little bit strange. For our default value for our text, let's just do 0, 0. For color and opacity, I just do like a little bit of like, if you just see this line right here, just put it about right there. It'll be like 0.77 for everything, like that. It's kind of what I like. For the size, underneath font, let's do 60. And for, I don't think we need any sort of shadows or anything like that. So that is looking pretty good. One thing that we do want to do is import a specific font. So let's go ahead and do that now really quickly. So if you haven't already, you can go ahead and download the project files, the course files, whatever they're called, on whichever website you are currently viewing this course on. You should see 3 folders inside of this project files: audio, fonts, and icons. What we want to do is, in our FPS game, let's create a new folder and call something fonts. And let's set a color to red. Let's open this up, open up fonts, and you'll see Purista, bold, and semi-bold. Let's just drag and drop both of those in there. Let's just hit yes to all, and it's going to create 4 different assets. One thing that we can do to make this a little bit more pleasurable to look at is if you click on one of these, you'll see it shows up really small. Go ahead and make this font size like 100. It'll make it bigger by default. And let's do that for both of them. Something like that, and just save that asset like that. Now, back inside of our weapon info on the text, under fonts, let's do the semi-bold one. And so now we have this looking thing right there. And might as well rename this text to current ammo text. Looking good. Inside of our horizontal box, we want to create another vertical box. So let's put that on top of the horizontal one. And we can just keep that name. That's fine. And this is where it gets a little awkward, because now inside of that vertical box, we want to put a horizontal box. So we got a whole bunch of different boxes. So let's get back our text and put that on this horizontal box. And let's name this reserve ammo text. Once again, what we want to do here is we want to, let me just check my notes really quickly. Oh, I see. What we want to set this as is just a little slash. like that. We're gonna set this to be the same color, just kind of this line up with this line. It'll be close enough. We don't need to be super perfect here. And plus it's all personal preference. For the font, let's set it to be 20. And we're gonna do the semi-bold once again. And this should be, I believe it should be left aligned. No, let's make it top aligned and centered. And then that will be looking good. Let's just copy and paste this text, and then we'll put one right beside it. And we'll just say reserve ammo text. Yeah, now they're both called reserve ammo. Let's call reserve, let's just call this slash text, and then this one will be reserve ammo text. Let's set this to be 000 by default. And then let's make this centered and top. That is correct. All of this should be right. 20. Yeah. Yeah, I think it looks good. Okay, the last thing we need to do is we need to create one more text. And we want this to be on the vertical box. So now it'll put it underneath like that. Okay, and then this is where we're gonna put our kind of fire type. So let's center this one too and bottom align it. We don't need to put any padding. The color, once again, that's sort of like off-white, little gray color. That I think looks all right. And then let's do semi-bold. You can always mess with this stuff however you please. The size of this is gonna be 15. The default value, let's set that to be bracket space auto in all caps, bracket enter. So it sets it kind of like that. And these actually aren't centered. Interesting. There's probably like one little setting that I still gotta redo. It might be with this vertical box. That looks better like that, but these do not look quite correct. They probably, oh, this probably has some sort of padding. Let me just check here real quickly, figure out what's causing that to not line up how I want it to. Okay, so everything was actually the same, but on this slash, it's actually a slash and then spacebar, and then hit enter, and it'll separate it, and it'll be more centered now. The other thing is I want to separate these a little bit more from each other. So one thing that we can do is we can create some left padding of like 5 or maybe 6 or something like that, and then those numbers are going to be a little bit more separated now. In the render transform for our stamina bar, we're going to make this 1.5, or at least I'm going to. I feel like that's a pretty good number. And then you can slot in whatever colors that you would like. You can make it red. You know what, I'll make it red. I'll make it that red color. And then underneath style for the fill image, you can get different colors in here as well. You can make that red and blue, and that'll actually give it like a different tint. And so yeah, there's a lot of different things you can do with the different stamina bar and different options like that. So you can make that look however you'd like to. Okay, so just as a recap, I'm going to show you everything. So we have a main box, and if you have any sort of thing that looks weird, I'll just scroll through all of the settings. Like I said, a lot of this is just personal preference, however you want it to look. But these are all of the settings that I have currently. The overlays, just like that. A background blur like this. So you can just feel free to pause if you would like to copy me, or feel free to just do your own thing, because it really doesn't matter. This is just making it look the way I kind of am trying to replicate Battlefield a little bit by the fonts and things like that. But you can do whatever you'd like to do. There is no right or wrong answer. You can just put 2 text numbers on the screen if you don't want it to look fancy in the stamina bar, because those are the only 2 things that we're really putting functionality on. The only script that will exist in this video is binding some of these things. So now that we've gotten through all of that, we're gonna bind some stuff to these numbers. These are the variables that we created at the beginning of the video. So let's go ahead and do that now. So in the event graph, let's go ahead and get the player character, the event graph of our same exact weapon info. If you weren't aware, cast to the player, promote to a variable, name it player, like such, as we've been doing many times now, but it never gets old. We always want to make references to our nice player so that we can keep pulling data out of it like that. Okay, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to create some bindings. So let's go back to our designer. The first one that we want to do is get this current ammo text. And then for our text, let's go to bind and create a binding. It's going to automatically create a function. And we'll just call this get current ammo, because the name that it comes up with is absolutely atrocious. So let's go ahead and grab our player, and then we want to get that loadout, and then we want to say equals has a weapon. So we only want to have this script run if we have a weapon, once again, because we don't want the game to get confused. So if we have a weapon, then we can do what we are about to do. So out of our player, let's get our current weapon, whatever the current weapon is in our hands, and let's get the current ammo from that weapon, that variable we created at the beginning of the video. And then if we plug this in, it'll make a little conversion node, and it will do just that. So that's all we got to do for that. Back to our designer. Let's go ahead and click on reserve ammo text, and let's create a binding for that. Let's change this atrocious looking name to get reserve ammo. And then it's actually going to be the same exact thing. So what we can do is we can get all of this script, just copy it, and then paste it in here. Let's plug it in, just like that. But instead of current ammo, we want to get current total ammo, because that's our bigger ammo. And then the last thing we want to do is get this auto text bind, create binding. And we didn't actually change the name of that, but that's okay. Let's say get fire type or something like that. And then it's going to be largely the same exact thing that we want to do. Yeah, I keep switching between these incorrect things. Let's copy that again, paste that again. So we only want to run this if we actually have a weapon. This actually doesn't need this. And then we'll get the fire. Isn't that what we named it? Fire type? Or get, what did we name that? Ammo type. It should be fire type. We'll say get ammo type, and then that should just plug in directly like that. It'll only run if we have the weapon. And so, yeah, that is looking all well and good. So now back in our main HUD, we want to create this. Let's grab a weapon info. Drop it onto the canvas panel, hit size to content. Let's go ahead and anchor this to the bottom right, let's say. I think that is a pretty decent spot. Bottom right. And the position X, let's do -350. Position Y, -250. 130, 0, and 0. All of that is fine. I think that whole thing is fine, actually. That looks pretty good. The last thing that we want to do here is we want to only have this show up if we have a weapon, which is, you know, the usual. So we're going to have to create a reference to our player once again. So let's go ahead and do that really quick. I'm just going to skip ahead because we've done this so many times. I don't want to waste any more time. So see you in a second. Okay, now that we've created a reference to our player, let's drag that reference out. Let's get our loadout again. and switch it on again. This is what we did kind of in the last video with the crosshairs. And then what we want to do is let's get weapon info and let's set visibility, copy paste. If we have a weapon, it's visible. If we don't have a weapon, it's collapsed. Plug both those targets in like that. And that should be all that we need to do right there. Boom. So what we can now do is we can go into these different weapons right here. And I want you to go ahead, take some time and put in how much ammo do you want the weapon to have, and how much ammo do you want to have total. So change those numbers around, and then I'll see you in a second. Okay, so hopefully that wasn't too hard. All you had to do is open up the weapons and change the current ammo and the current total ammo. So now, if we did everything correctly, when we hop in and play, we equip a weapon, it has whatever those numbers are, and then we switch to the different weapon, and then the other weapon, the other weapon, the other weapon, and the other weapon. It'll now change whatever we have for the current ammo, the current total ammo, and then our burst. So I just said single, auto for automatic, spread for the shotgun, and the rest of them just say single. Those numbers are changing. So if you would like to move those numbers around or make any sort of edits to the visual style of that, feel free to mess around in the widgets and do that. But the functionality of that is still there. That's the main thing that I wanted to show how to do. So yeah, that is all set up. So thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.